Good morning, children. Today we are going to see about the very famous play by Shakespeare. This is our supplementary, The Tempest. A very interesting play written by William Shakespeare. In this particular story, we see that the characters are written on the board: Prospero, Duke of Milan. Duke or king, we call during those time the English usually call, they don't call kings, they call Duke of Milan. His daughter Miranda, a beautiful young lady. Antonio, Prospero's brother. King of Naples, a powerful enemy of Prospero. Ferdinand, king's son, Naples. Sycorax, witch. Ariel and other spirits were slaves to this Sycorax. Gonzalo, Prospero's minister. Now we go on to the story. There was an island in the sea. You know what is an island? An island is surrounded by four sides on water, and in that particular island, Ferdinand and Miranda are staying there. The only inhabitants of which were an old man named Prospero and his daughter Miranda, a very beautiful young lady. Miranda was a very young, beautiful lady. She came to this island so young that she had no memory of having seen any other human face than her father's. So this young woman, Miranda, had not seen any other man, only her father. She has seen her father's face, but no other human face she has seen. They lived in a cave made out of a rock. So in that island there was a big rock, no other dwelling. So they lived in that rock, and that was the dwelling place. The Duke of Milan and his daughter are in this island. Particularly we see, as we read the story, we will come to know why they came to this island. It was divided into several apartments where they lived. They divided that complete dwelling place inside that rock, several apartments, one of which Prospero called a study. This Prospero, this Duke of Milan, was interested in studying. That was, he was a passionate reader. He used to read lot of books, and he also used to do some magic work also. He was also a man who can play tricks, who can do some magic works. So he was there, and he used to read lot of books connected to the magical world. By virtue, there he kept his books, which chiefly treated of magic. I told you, he was interested in all this magical work, and he was powerful in controlling all the spirits, everything. He was such an able man. So he had that habit of doing some magic. By virtue of his art, he had released many good spirits from a witch called Sycorax. Now I have written here, a wicked Sycorax. A witch, a female person is known as a witch who performs magical tricks. She is known as a witch. The opposite of the male is wizard. Now we see the Sycorax had imprisoned many spirits in that island under her control, and they were gradually serving her as slaves. These spirits were slaves for Sycorax, and they used to serve this wicked witch Sycorax, who had them imprisoned in the bodies of large trees. So this Sycorax imprisoned the spirits in the large trees, and they were living in those trees. These gentle spirits were never after obedient to the will of Prospero. Of these, Ariel was the chief. So what happened? As soon as Prospero came to this island, when he heard about this wicked Sycorax, he released many of the good spirits from the hands of this Sycorax, and one among them was Ariel. He was made the chief spirit, and he used to carry out all the work for Prospero. So they were very happily living there. With the help of Ariel and other spirits, Prospero was able to do all the work, and his daughter was with him. Ariel took rather too much pleasure in tormenting an ugly monster called Caliban. Now, Caliban was the son of this wicked Sycorax. So, Ariel had the pleasure of torturing this Caliban because Sycorax tormented and ill-treated Ariel and his subordinates. He was the son of his old enemy Sycorax. Caliban was employed like a slave to fetch wood and do the most laborious offices, and Ariel had the charge of compelling him to these services. Now Caliban, since he was the son of this wicked Sycorax, he was allowed to do only menial work. So Ariel was the chief spirit, and he used to take the labor from this particular Caliban. With the help of these spirits, Prospero could command the winds and the waves of the sea. By his orders, they raised a violent storm, in the midst of which he showed his daughter a fine large ship which he told her was full of living beings like themselves. "Oh, my dear father," said she, "if by your art you have raised this dreadful storm, have pity on the sad distress. See, the vessel will be dashed to pieces. Poor souls, they will all perish." Now, Prospero is talking to his daughter Miranda. "Now I am going to raise a very violent storm in the sea, where a ship is going to break into pieces." This girl takes pity because she says, so many beings are there, human beings are. She hasn't seen any of the human being, but even then she says, so many are there, so don't do that, father. She requests her father not to raise a violent storm. "Be not so amazed, daughter Miranda," said Prospero. "There is no harm done. I will not harm those people who are in the ship. I have so ordered it that no person in the ship shall receive any hurt." So he assures his daughter, Prospero assures his daughter that he will not harm any being in the ship. "What I have done has been in care of you, my dear child. You are ignorant. You do not know certain things. You have seen me only, and you have not seen any human being. You do not know about the world. You are ignorant about the world. So you just see what I am going to do. Can you remember a time before you came to this cell? I think you cannot, for you were not then 3 years of age." When they landed in this particular island, Miranda was only 3 years old, and she doesn't know anything what happened after that. As she grew up, she was with the father, and her father was narrating all the details of what happened to them and why they were in this particular island. 12 years ago, Miranda continued Prospero. 12 years ago, Miranda. Now he is narrating the story why they are in that island. 12 years ago, Miranda, before 12 years, I was Duke of Milan, and you were a princess, and my only heir. You were the only heir to the throne. I had a younger brother whose name was Antonio, to whom I trusted everything. My brother Antonio, being thus in possession of my power, began to think himself the duke indeed. So what he thought, Prospero was telling Miranda, that he had a brother Antonio who was supporting Prospero in all his affairs of the kingdom. The opportunity I gave him of making himself popular among my subjects awakened in his a bad nature a proud ambition to deprive me of my dukedom, and this he soon effected with the aid of the king of Naples, a powerful prince who was my enemy. So this girl was listening, Miranda was listening to her father. Now Prospero is telling, since I gave him the entire responsibility of the kingdom, he misused that power and he wanted to take the power from me. He joined hands with the king of Naples, who was the deadliest enemy for Prospero. So he joined and overthrew me from the kingdom, and they banished us from my kingdom, and you were only 3 years old when you came to this island. Wherefore, said Miranda, did they not that are destroy us? So this girl is asking, did they not kill us, father? That is what he says. Now he says that he had a very, very truthful and very honest minister, Gonzalo, who had a deep love for Prospero. So he took care of Prospero and Miranda, and he made some arrangements to make them escape from the kingdom. So he says, my child, answered her father, they dare not, so dear was the love that my people bore me. So they did not want to kill me, but the people loved me so much. One among them was Gonzalo, a very faithful minister of my kingdom. Antonio carried us on a board, a ship, and when we were some leagues out at sea, he forced us into a small boat without either tackle, sail or mast. There he left us as he thought to perish. But a kind lord of my court, one Gonzalo, who loved me, had privately placed me in the boat, water, provisions, apparel, and some books which I prize above me. Now he is telling Miranda, see, this wicked brother, my brother, he took me in a ship and he just left me on the sea and then dropped me in a boat where there was no sail or mast. He wanted me to perish in the sea. But my minister, that Gonzalo, already prepared everything for me to escape from there, placed water, provisions, food, apparel, clothes, everything in that boat, and we were made to move from that place to this island. So we did not perish by the grace of Gonzalo. Oh, my father, said Miranda, what a trouble must I have been to you then. Now this girl is a very kind and gentle girl. She said, what lot of trouble you must have undergone having me in your hand as a small child. No, my love, said Prospero. Immediately Prospero says, no, my dear child, you were a little angel that did preserve me. You were the one I was able to live. After seeing your face, I made up my mind to live for you. Only you preserved my life. Because of you only I am living now. Otherwise I would have perished, he says. Your innocent smiles made me bear up against my misfortunes. When I see your face, I got the courage to live. This was the words uttered by Prospero to Miranda. Our food lasted till we landed on this desert island, since when my chief delight has been in teaching you, Miranda, and well, you have profited by my instructions. I came to this island and I landed in this island, and slowly I wanted to teach you some good things, and you were very clever to grasp everything. Heaven, thank you, my dear father, said Miranda. Now tell me, sir, your reason for raising the storm. Now you tell me, father, why did you raise the storm in the sea? She is asking this question. Know then, said her father, that by means of the storm, my enemies, the king of Naples and my cruel brother, are cast ashore upon this island. I made this wantedly because the ship in which they were travelling are the king of Naples and my brother Antonio. I wanted them to perish in the sea or make them land in the island. I wanted them to bring to my island, and I wanted to teach them a very good lesson, he says. So that was the reason I raised a violent storm in the sea, he says to Miranda. Having so said, Prospero gently touched his daughter with his magic wand. Since he was well known in his magical power, immediately he touched Miranda and she fell asleep. He did not want his daughter to know anything that is happening around her. That means he doesn't want to reveal Ariel. So he brings Ariel in front of him, and she fell fast asleep. For the spirit Ariel just then presented. As soon as she fell asleep, the Ariel spirit appeared before Prospero, his master, to give an account of the tempest. Now Ariel is narrating what all he did to the ship. How did he raise the storm in the sea? So he narrated to his master, that is Prospero, what happened in the sea. And though the spirits were always invisible to Miranda, Prospero did not choose. She should hear him holding conversation, as would seem to her, with the empty air. So as soon as this man said that everything, was raised because of these people, Ariel was able to narrate all the account that happened in the sea. Well, my brave spirit. Miranda was fast asleep. She did not know what is happening there. Now, Prospero and Ariel were in conversation, and he said, well, my brave spirit, said Prospero to Ariel, how have you performed your task? How did you do this task? The task I have given you, how did you carry it out? I want you to give a narration, he asked Prospero. Ariel gave a lively description of the storm and of the terrors of the mariners. As soon as he raised the storm, he was telling Prospero, the mariners, the people who were in the ship were terribly afraid, and how the king's son Ferdinand, now we are introduced to a character, the king of Naples' son Ferdinand is introduced here. So the king's son Ferdinand was the first who leaped into the sea. As soon as the storm came up, the first one to leap out of the ship was the king's son Ferdinand. And his father thought he saw his dear son swallowed up by the waves and lost. As soon as his father saw his son leaping into the water, inside the water, he thought that his son would have perished. But he is safe, said Ariel, in a corner of the isle. Isle, it should be pronounced as isle. In a corner of an isle. Isle is an island. Sadly lamenting the loss of the king, his father. So I brought him to by magical powers, I brought this Ferdinand to this island, and he is in the corner of this island. He is crying over his father's loss. He thought that his father would have perished. Father would have thought the son would have perished. That's my delicate, Ariel, said Prospero. Bring him here. My daughter must see this young prince. Where is the king and my brother? Now he is asking. I want to hear. He commands Ariel to bring Ferdinand to be seen by Miranda. Now he is asking, where is my brother Antonio and where is the king of Naples? Now Ariel replies, I left them, answered Ariel, searching for Ferdinand, whom they have little hopes of finding, thinking they saw him perish. Of the ship's crew, not one is missing, though each one thinks himself the only one saved, and the ship, though invisible to them, is safe in the harbor. So Ariel does all magical work. Not one perished in the sea. Everybody was safe. So he says, nobody perished in the sea. Nobody is hurt. And the ship is safe in the harbor. The ship is not broken into pieces. Ariel then went to fetch Ferdinand. So he wanted to bring Ferdinand right in front of Prospero's eyes. Oh, my young gentleman, said Ariel when he saw him. I will soon move you. You must be brought. I find for the Lady Miranda to have a sight of your pretty person. Come, sir, follow me. Oh, he takes Ferdinand to be presented before Prospero and his daughter Miranda. He followed in amazement the sound of Ariel's voice. Now we see that the spirit cannot be seen. Ariel is invisible. Only he could hear the voice. Ariel is commanding Ferdinand to be followed. So he says, he looks around and sees, but he could hear the voice of the spirit Ariel. To Prospero and Miranda, who were sitting under the shade of a large tree. Now Miranda had never seen a man before except her own father. Now again I am telling, the only person she has seen as a human being was her father, Prospero. Now she was surprised to see this young, handsome man coming right in front of her father and herself. Miranda, said Prospero, tell me what you are looking at yonder. Now Prospero is asking Miranda, what are you looking at, my child? What are you looking at a distance? Now Miranda is completely in amazement and surprise. Now she tells, oh father, said Miranda in a strange surprise, surely that is a spirit, Lord. How it looks about, believe me, it is a beautiful creature. Is it not a spirit? Now this girl is amazed and surprised. She says, I am seeing a spirit. She sees Ferdinand not as a human being, but as a spirit. So she explains to her father, I am seeing a spirit, father. No, girl, answered her father. It eats and sleeps and has senses such as we have. This young man you see was in the ship. He is somewhat altered by grief, or you might call him a handsome person. He has lost his companions and is wandering about to find them. Now Prospero is narrating the incidents that happened in the ship. Now this man is crying because he lost everyone who were with him in the ship. So he is telling Miranda, now we have to console this man. So I told him to come right in front of us so that I could give him some work. Miranda, who thought all men had grey faces and grey beards like a father, was delighted with the appearance of this beautiful young prince, and Ferdinand, seeing such a lovely lady in this desert place, and from the strange sounds he had heard, expecting nothing but wonders. Now here both of them meet, Ferdinand and Miranda. Miranda is surprised by the appearance of Ferdinand. Ferdinand is completely taken back by the beauty of Miranda. So both were surprised, and this is the first time she is seeing a very handsome looking man, a human being. She thought all men would be like her father, who had long beards and grey faces and old. But to her surprise, this young man was looking so handsome. Soon she got attracted towards Ferdinand, and Ferdinand also, after seeing such a lovely lady in this desert island, he was surprised. Thought he was upon an enchanted island. Ferdinand could not believe his eyes. He thought that he was in some magical island, and that Miranda was the goddess of the place, and such as he began to address her. He thought that Miranda was the goddess, that she looked so beautiful that Ferdinand thought that Miranda was the beauty of that island. She timidly answered she was no goddess. So she immediately said, I am not a goddess, but a simple maid, and was going to give him an account of herself. When Prospero interrupted her, he was well pleased to find they admired each other, but to try Ferdinand's constancy, he resolved to throw some difficulties in their way. So Prospero was listening to their conversation, and he knew that Ferdinand was completely attracted by Miranda. Miranda also was in love with Ferdinand. Now he wanted to test the faith of Ferdinand. So the love, how can he stand? How long can he stand? So he gave some hard labor to Ferdinand to be carried out. Now what is the labor? We will see. Throw some difficulties. Throw some difficulties means he has to work for him. Therefore, advancing forward, he addressed the prince with a stern air. Now Prospero starts to speak. Follow me, said he. So he instructed Ferdinand to follow him. I will tie your neck and feet together. You shall drink sea water. Shellfish, withered roots and husks of acorns shall be your food. Now he gives instruction to Ferdinand. Now I am going to tie your legs and hands, and you are going to drink sea water and eat the roots, acorns and what is all in the island, he says. I will resist this, said, and he drew his sword. It is not sword, it is sword. It should be pronounced as sword. But Prospero, waving his magic wand, fixed him to the spot where he stood, so that he had no power to move. Immediately when he told all these things, Ferdinand said, I am going to kill you. You are ill-treating me, he said. Now immediately with the magical power, Prospero binds him. Miranda hung upon her father, saying, why are you so ungentle? So she is saying, why are you so cruel, father? She is using the word, so a very polite word. Why are you so ungentle? Have pity, sir. I will be his surety. This is the second man I ever saw, and to me he seems a true one. Father, don't be cruel to him. I will give you assurance. I stand surety for him. Now he will do all the work you are going to give him. He seems to be a very truthful man. Miranda supports Ferdinand in such a way to her father. Silence, said father. One word more will make me chide you, girl. Now you should not speak. I am very angry. Don't talk like this. He just chides. He is angry with Miranda. What an advocate for an impostor. What? You are supporting an impostor, a very bad man, and you are supporting this impostor. You think there are no more such fine men, having seen only him and Caliban? Now you have seen only this man and Caliban. You haven't seen any other man? Now you be quiet. Don't fix any opinion on this man that he is a true man, he says. This is the second man I ever saw. Now here, this he said to prove his daughter's constancy, and she replied, my affections are most humble. I have no wish to see a goodlier man. So she says, I don't want to see any other man. I see some good qualities in this man, Ferdinand. So father, have pity on him. Don't ill-treat him, she says. Come on, young man, said Prospero to the prince. You have no power to disobey. Now he commands to Ferdinand. Prospero commands with a severe tone, telling, now you have to obey my orders. Prospero had commanded Ferdinand to pile up some heavy logs of wood. King's sons not being much used to laborious work, Miranda soon after found him almost dying with fatigue, very tired, because he was the king's son. He is not used to all these things. So he must carry heavy logs of wood, heavy wood he must carry. Miranda soon after found him almost dying. He was very tired. He did not have any food or water. Alas, said she, do not work so hard. My father is at his studies. He is safe for these 3 hours. Pray rest yourself. Now Miranda goes and takes pity on Ferdinand and says, now don't work too hard. You take some rest. My father is in his studies and he will not come here after 3 hours he will be here. So you take some rest and be at rest, she says. Oh, my dear lady, said Ferdinand, I dare not. I must finish my task before I take my rest. So immediately Ferdinand says, no, my dear young lady, I don't want to take rest. I must finish the work that your father has given me. So he carries on the work. If you will sit down, said Miranda, I will carry your logs the while. But this Ferdinand would by no means agree. So he said, you sit for a while. I will do this work for you. Immediately Ferdinand says, no, my young lady, you cannot do this work. I'll stop with this, children. I'll continue afterwards.